Okay, so today we're going to talk about Senegal. Senegal doesn't appear to go away out of the news, okay, from last month when we saw President Faye sacked his own Prime Minister, Mr. Ousmane Sonko, because of all sorts of reasons, okay. A lot of people argue it was because of personal differences or ideological differences, whatever the case, but I think the IMF was being thrown in as one of the reasons why the two differed. Okay, because of the fact that the President Faye was a pro-IMF, whereas the Prime Minister Sonko at the time was somebody that was against IMF. He believed in sovereignty of the country, self-sustainability. That was his approach. Now, the reason why we're having this discussion today is because this week, again, Senegal is in the news because we've got the IMF that is currently in the country. The IMF is in Dakar as we speak. And according to different media outlets, or the Reuters or whatever, what they're saying is that there's likely that this IMF deal will not be reached. Okay, they're likely to walk away with no deal whatsoever, none. Now you can imagine. Okay, this is something that must be very troubling to the president, because this is what he was really expecting to happen, and having sacked Sonko and having paved way for the IMF, and suddenly the deal has not actually happened. Now, before we get into all of this, I just want to talk about the fact, just to see how the Senegal government actually got itself in this position in the first place. So in 2024, when the new government was ushered in, it was discovered that the previous government were inflating lots of figures, they were underreporting and spending lots of money. That was not even on paper, okay? So that caused the IMF to actually seize that program of the IMF to a tune of $1.8 billion. Now, that is a lot of money. And Senegal has been surviving through all sorts of reasons, short-term debt, short-term borrowing here and there. It's like somebody who's got a credit card. You get a credit card there, you max it out, you suddenly get another credit card, you max it out. And this is where, countries live in the same way that human beings do as well. Now, we all know that by doing so, you're not really solving the problem, okay? You're simply masking the problem or delaying the problem. So this was one of the reasons why Sonko was actually sacked, because he was one of the fierce critics of the IMF. It was against restructuring, this IMF debt and so on, because he called it a disgrace. Now we've got the IMF team, the International Monetary Fund team that is in the country, that is actually refusing to meet the head of state, okay, Mr. President Faye, and not even the new Prime Minister. It appears the IMF is just willing to meet the finance minister and not the leadership at the top. So this is where a lot of people are saying, well, it appears as though the IMF default is actually inevitable. Okay, this is something, according to some of the investors, it is more than likely that this default will still go ahead in Senegal. Now, the question that a lot of people are asking is, if Sonko was a problem, the same Prime Minister that was sacked, that was seen to be a stumbling block to this whole process, if that was a problem, why is the default now looking more inevitable than the day he was actually sacked? So looking at all these things, there's no doubt that President Faye actually created a political crisis inside his own movement, okay, that has seen him having run out of options. This is somebody that is basically, running out of options, because you sacked your closest ally, thinking that that was going to solve the problem and pave way for the IMF visit, and, get rid of the old chapter and start the new chapter. But nope. This is more likely going to end without that particular deal. Now, given all these circumstances, this must be one of those things that is probably keeping the man awake, President Faye himself, and is thinking, what did I do? He's basically shot himself in the foot. What a tragedy. What a tragedy.